3.
They've been part of our lives for years now, breath tests and campaigns against drunk driving. The authorities credit them with cutting drink driving fatalities by over half, but the government wants more. It's proposing to reduce the maximum blood alcohol level to just over half the present amount. But will that make a difference? Will it stop you having a couple of drinks with your dinner before driving home? Well, we've been testing ordinary New Zealanders to see how much you can drink before being over the limit, the current limit and the new one. The results may come as a shock. Sarah Hall with the story.
It's Friday night. You've had a couple of drinks after work. You think you're okay to drive, but you're not really sure. Suddenly you see the flashing lights. Your heart sinks. You try to remember, is it 1 or 2 standard drinks you're allowed? How much is too much?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Compulsory breath testing. Please say your full name and address, please.
John Smith, 21 Albert Road, Devonport.
That's passed, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
They're gory, they're graphic, and there's no doubt the anti-drink driving campaigns have worked. Our attitudes have changed. It's no longer socially acceptable to drink and drive. And the number of alcohol-related road deaths has fallen from 270 10 years ago to 100 last year. So while there has been some success, the government is now looking at lowering the blood alcohol limit from 80 to 50. The critics have said this will persecute the average law-abiding person, and you will no longer be able to have a couple of wines or a beer over dinner.
Well, it's not true. It's as simple as that. I think that view is based on misinformation, it's based on myth, and a lot of people unfortunately accept that as fact.
Well, what are the facts? To try to find out, we gathered 6 people at Waikato University to find out how much you can safely drink before driving. The candidates are all of varying ages and weights. Neil, Grant and Joe weigh between 75 and 95 kilograms. The women, Jude, Emma and Erina, are between 60 and 75 kgs. None have any real idea about how much they can drink, so we'll be breath testing them throughout the night to see if they can tell when they're over the limit. Also on hand, the closest thing to safely testing them behind the wheel, the country's most advanced driving simulator. We've already tested the candidates sober, driving along a simulation of a real stretch of road, one of the country's black spots between Katikati and Bethlehem in the Bay of Plenty. Later, we will compare the results as they become more intoxicated. But first, the drinking. The group is drinking beer and ready-to-drink mixes, with an alcohol content of around 5%, and snack food has been provided. After 3 drinks in the first hour, some were not confident they would pass the breathalyzer. Erina, you've had 3 vodkas in an hour and a half. You're just about to be breath tested. Do you think you'll be over the limit?
Yes, I do.
So would you feel safe to drive a car at the moment?
I feel fine at the moment, but I do think I'll be over the limit.
OK, well, off you go. Go get to see how you go. Dude, you've now had 3 beers in an hour. Do you think you'll be over the limit?
Because I haven't had a substantial lunch today, perhaps I am. It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah. Do you feel safe to drive at the moment, though?
Not right now.
On hand to carry out the testing is the Waikato's top traffic officer, Leo Tuman. All 6 were under the limit. Joe's results were the most surprising. Remembering the legal limit is 80, after 3 beers, Joe's blood alcohol is just 13. After 4 beers, Neil reached a blood alcohol limit of 49. That's just under the new proposed limit of 50, so we put him on the driving simulator to see how he would go.
I think he was more cautious. But having said that, he's tended to ride the centre line and the verge lines more. That is, his lane position was less accurate, and it looked to be a little more variable. His speed was a bit more variable as well.
Samuel Charlton is an engineering psychologist who runs the driving simulator and rated Neil's driving for us. In your opinion, do you think he was safe behind the wheel of the car?
Just. I mean, he was able to cope with that slower traffic ahead of him, but one wonders if there were a more significant emergency, how good his judgment would have been.
Another hour has passed.
Go away, go away.
$5, brother.
I'll give you your $5.
I won. Who's the best?
All the candidates have now had 6 drinks, and all but Neil believe they're now way over the limit. Do you feel safe to drive?
No, I don't.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Do you feel safe to drive now?
No, we.
Do you feel safe to drive at the moment?
No,
Do you think you'd be over the limit?
definitely.
Okay, so Neil, you're now on your 6th drink.
Yep.
It's been 2.5 hours. Do you think you'd be over the limit?
No, I don't think so.
You're the only one here that doesn't think they'll be over the limit.
In 2.5 hours, 6 drinks? I don't think so, no.
Long, continuous breath.
Neil was right. He was not over the limit. But let's see how the others fared. I'll start with you, Jude. 6 beers and you're at 71, so you are under the legal limit. Does that surprise you?
No. I'm very pleased.
That's great. Do you?
So if I meet Leo Tooman on the road at any stage, I'm reassured that I can have 5 beers.
6 beers, Jude. You've had 6.
But 5 is my limit. If I have more than 5, I won't drive.
Grant, after 6 beers, you're under the limit on 64. Any surprises for you there?
Yeah, I would have thought that it was over the space of an hour and a half. I would have thought I would have been over the limit.
Did you think you were safe to drive?
I didn't think I was safe to drive, no.
Okay.
I'm quite surprised that I was.
Erina, who believed she was unsafe to drive, was on just 45. There are 2 more to be tested, Emma and Joe. Okay, Emma, you've had the same amount to drink as all the other women here.
Yes.
You thought you were over the limit, and you are right. You are well over the legal limit on 106.
Okay.
Any reason, do you think, for you being so much over the limit compared to other people here?
No idea.
Did you eat properly today?
Yes.
Breakfast and lunch?
No breakfast.
That's not eating properly, Emma. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Sorry, Sarah.
And now we know why. Right. Remembering that the legal limit is 80 and you've had 6 drinks, how do you feel right now?
Oh, I feel pretty happy. Yeah, not drunk though. No way.
Do you feel safe to drive though?
No. No.
You don't?
No.
You may be surprised to learn then that out of everyone here, you have the lowest score at only 30. You're not even halfway to the legal limit.
Oh. Jeez.
Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I am.
And you feel unsafe to drive?
Oh, yeah, by my standards, I would be.
So after 5 out of the 6 candidates are still under the limit, yet all of them felt unsafe to drive. Andy Nackstead from the Land Transport Safety Authority. What do you say to people who are watching this program and now think it's okay to have 6 drinks and that they'll be under the limit?
Well, I'd like to think that there won't be too many people who think that way. I think we have made a lot of progress in terms of changing people's attitudes and having a mature attitude to drinking. There will be people who think that, and that's unfortunate, but that's an inevitable consequence of having this debate. If we're going to look seriously at lowering the limit, we need to look at the facts, and these are the facts.
Was it heartening to see that the candidates wouldn't have driven even though they were under the limit?
Yeah, it was, and I think that points to the fact that we've been quite successful in educating people over the last 10 years about the dangers of drink driving, and it means that the efforts of police and the LTSA are bearing fruit. The message is getting through, but we've still got 100 people dying every year, and there's room to improve.
Oh man, he's doing it!
That's 100 people who die every year in crashes involving alcohol. And if the limit is lowered to 50, the lives of 15 people annually could be saved, according to New Zealand's top traffic officer, Steve Fitzgerald. Why should New Zealand lower the amount of alcohol we can drink before driving?
It's very much a public health issue. We know that we have this pill, which is to lower the drink drive limit down to 50, and we know if we do that, then we're going to have 15 people alive at the end of the year, and 300 people less going to hospital every year. So it's actually a good public health initiative.
A lot of people, though, believe it's a draconian move.
No, I think that's nonsense. It's been internationally accepted. We've had evidence here today that people can still actually enjoy themselves and still drink reasonably and moderately.
If the drink driving limit is lowered to 50, you will not lose your licence if you're on the 50 to 80 range. Instead, you'll be issued with an infringement ticket and you'll not be allowed to drive for between 12 and 24 hours. Both the Automobile Association and the Alcohol Advisory Council believes the limit should remain at 80, that the police should target recidivist drink drivers instead, and those who are well over the limit because they cause the most carnage.
Hi there. Compulsory breath testing. You safe for now?
God, you're a great.
Our candidates are creating a little bit of carnage of their own, in stark contrast to their clean performance in their sober test drives. After 5 hours, Grant has had 12 beers. His blood alcohol level is now 103, well over the 80 limit. The simulator shows us just how dangerous a drunk driver is.
Well, actually, he did better than I thought he would, but he clearly had some lane-keeping difficulties. He was clearly, having difficulty staying in his lanes. 2 corners he lost traction and probably would have lost control of the vehicle had it been an actual car. And he had some overtaking difficulties as well with the truck. I probably would not have gotten in a car with him, and he would have been, I think, lucky to make it home in traffic conditions.
Bastard.
Jude, Emma and Neil have had 9 beers and are also over the limit.
Oops, lost the plot. Didn't it? No. Steady up there, girl.
Jude actually had the most difficulty, I think, of any of the drivers. She said she felt wobbly, and she clearly had trouble staying in her lane. She lost control on more than one occasion, and pretty obviously would have come to grief on the actual road.
Right, so she was a danger to all other motorists out there tonight.
You could put it that way. Well, Emma was less cautious, if anything, than the first time through. She drove slowly, more slowly than perhaps she would when she was sober, but she had trouble keeping an even speed, so she would speed up and slow down and speed up and slow down. Also some clear problems, again, staying in her lane, and she tended to ride the verge and cut the corners and what have you. Neil also managed all right. I mean, in comparison to a couple of the earlier drivers we mentioned, Neil came through. He was able to anticipate some of the actions of some of the other drivers. He was cautious. He was clearly concentrating, working hard to keep in his lane, and he managed to do it.
Back in the breath testing room, there's been a big surprise. Irina, our youngest drinker at 20, has had 9 RTDs, or ready-to-drink vodkas. Once again, she's under the limit on 71.
I can't believe I'm still under.
And remember 21-year-old Joe, he's been under the limit all night. But now he's had 5 beers and 7 ready-to-drink bourbons, a total of 12 drinks. Again, he's under the limit on 77.
But you're just right on the limit.
absolutely.
What's
on
the limit? 80, yeah?
80, yeah. 80 for those over 20, yeah. So, but you wouldn't feel like driving, I presume?
I wouldn't drive. No way. No, I wouldn't drive if I had won.
I can't. Let's say everybody in New Zealand was the same as that, and we wouldn't have a problem, would we?
Were you surprised by the results of our tests that we've done?
Probably not as surprised as you were. It still is surprising when you see these kind of numbers of drinks being had and people still being under the legal limit. It's surprising, but you know, this is one of the reasons why we think that there are gains to be made in lowering the legal limit for driving.
One reason for Joe's results is that he's very athletic. He has less body fat than the other candidates, meaning his body is made up of more water, which dilutes the alcohol. And if we had tested him in another hour, he would have been over the limit, because your blood alcohol peaks an hour after you stop drinking, as the alcohol is absorbed and distributed through your body. Why do you think there was such a variation in the results?
It comes down to individuals. There's so many factors that come into play, so many physiological differences from one person to the next, which makes it very difficult to say everyone can have X number of drinks or everyone can have Y number of drinks. The fact is that we process alcohol differently. We have different metabolic rates. There's differences between men and women. And there's just a lot of differences from one individual to the next.
Oh. See you later.
While Joe and Erina were under the limit, their driving showed why young people are overrepresented in fatal road crashes. At one stage, Joe was clocked at 130 kilometres an hour, and Erina too had problems with speed.
They were driving over the speed limit, and I mean, that's something we see throughout younger drivers, that they're not able to anticipate the situations ahead. A lot of what we do when we drive almost becomes automatic, and for those younger drivers, it's not automatic yet. They will get caught out in situations where they get lured into speed traps or driving too fast for the conditions.
Okay. Good constant blow and keep the level up.
You may have noticed that none of our candidates were wine drinkers, and of course wine has a lot higher alcohol level than beer. In the interests of research, I had 3 wines over an hour and a half time period. Normally I wouldn't feel safe to drive, but I was surprised to learn my blood alcohol level was just 50, the new proposed limit.
I think what it shows is when we talk about lowering the limit from 80 to 50, the impact on your average law-abiding New Zealander will be virtually nil. In fact, the only impact will be that they're less likely to be taken out by a drunk driver on their way home from dinner.
Are you ready?
Never been readier.
He's a real Kiwi bachelor.
Time to lift his shirt up, see if he's got any abs. He's not drop dead gorgeous. He looks a bit cash.
Searching for that special someone.
It's going to be hard to hook him up.
By searching through some houses.
Things are looking really good.
Is that okay for you?
Hey, that's fine with me.
This is very weird.
The girl can look quite sexy in flannel jet pyjamas, especially just the top.
Will one of these ladies have the key to his heart?
Tell us who you chose.
All new House Dates, 8:30 Tuesday on 3.